There's a quiet kind of person who walks among us, unseen, unmarked, untouched by ink. In a world obsessed with self-expression, with visible declarations of identity, these individuals remain blank canvases, not because they fear art, but because they revere silence. They understand that not everything sacred must be displayed, not every meaning must be made visible, not every story needs to be written on the skin. They carry their history beneath the surface, not on it, and perhaps that is what makes them so enigmatic. To choose not to have a tattoo in this age is not just a decision. It is a quiet rebellion. It is to say no to a world that constantly shouts yes. It is to resist the hunger for external identity, to reject the idea that depth must be seen to be real. You see, the human mind has a strange craving to be known, to be understood, to be witnessed. And for many, tattoos become symbols of belonging, memory, freedom. But for some, for the ones who stay untouched, their belonging is inward. Their symbols are invisible, carved not into flesh, but into thought, restraint, and solitude. They are not cold or detached. They simply understand that meaning, when it's real, doesn't need to be advertised. That truth, when it's lived, doesn't need to be performed. These are the people who value permanence differently, not as a mark on the body, but as a state of mind. They know that the skin changes. It wrinkles, fades, decays, and so they seek to write their stories elsewhere, in their actions, their presence, their silence. They understand that what's eternal cannot be captured by ink, because ink too will someday disappear. They carry their marks inside, unseen but undeniable. Memories of pain, moments of clarity, the slow mending of the soul. These are their tattoos, invisible yet more real than anything visible. Psychologically, those who choose to remain unmarked often possess a form of inner restraint, a discipline that resists impulse. They do not rush to define themselves because they know they are still becoming. They are comfortable with ambiguity, with the quiet evolution of identity. Where others chase symbolism, they chase essence. Where others crave permanence, they crave understanding. They are patient with life's unfolding. They understand that expression is not always revelation. Sometimes it's concealment. Sometimes the loudest voice is the one that never speaks. And in that silence lies their authenticity. But make no mistake, their blank skin is not emptiness. It's space. Space to think, to breathe, to observe. Space for the self to expand without borders or labels. They are not defined by what they show, but by what they withhold. And that withholding is not fear, it is power. They walk through the world quietly, untouched by the constant need to be seen. They know that mystery is not a flaw, but a form of depth. That restraint is not absence, but mastery. To be unmarked in a world of marks is to move differently, not as a blank page, but as a living journal, written only in the language of the soul. Perhaps the ones without tattoos are not those who have nothing to say, but those who have already said too much in their own hearts. Perhaps they have been scarred by life in ways no ink could represent. Or maybe, just maybe, they have made peace with their own impermanence and feel no need to immortalize what they already accept. For some, the decision not to have a tattoo is not about the skin at all. It's about control, the quiet assertion of sovereignty over one's body, one's image, one's narrative. In a culture where exposure is currency, to remain untouched is a declaration of privacy, a refusal to turn the body into a billboard for meaning. It's an act of self-possession, subtle but absolute. The psychology of these people is rooted in depth, not defiance. They are watchers, thinkers, feelers. They move through life aware of its impermanence. and they carry a kind of reverence for the unspoken, for the invisible stories that breathe behind the skin. They do not judge those who mark themselves, just as they do not expect others to understand their choice not to. They simply walk their path in silence, a silence that speaks more profoundly than any ink could ever say. To live unmarked in a world that worships visibility is to trust that your truth does not need to be proven. It is to believe that the soul, in its stillness, is already enough of a canvas. And maybe that is the quiet secret of those who choose to stay untouched. They have already found what others are still trying to draw. The quiet psychology of restraint and mystery. There's a rare kind of strength in those who do not rush to express themselves. In a society addicted to revelation, where identity is performed, curated, and stamped into flesh, restraint has become a forgotten art. Yet those who choose to remain unmarked often understand something profound, that mystery itself is a form of power. Psychologically, restraint is not repression. It is precision. It is the understanding that not every impulse deserves a stage. Not every feeling deserves permanence. To withhold expression is not to suppress emotion, but to honor it, to protect it from the dilution of exposure. Those without tattoos often live by this unspoken principle. They move through life aware that once you reveal something sacred, it no longer belongs entirely to you. Their silence is not emptiness, it is containment. They carry worlds within them, philosophies, heartbreaks, and revelations. But they release them only when they are ready, only when it matters. They don't wear their pain on their skin because they've already worn it in their hearts. And those invisible marks are far deeper, far more permanent than ink could ever reach. This restraint, this mystery, gives them an aura that feels almost ancient. In a time when everything is shared, they remain private. When the world races to display, they retreat to observe. They understand that to remain partially unknown is not to be incomplete. It is to remain whole. Their depth cannot be summarized by symbols or images, because their story is still being written in silence. To the modern eye, this choice might look like detachment, maybe even coldness. But beneath that stillness lies a quiet intimacy with the self, a relationship built not on display, but on awareness. They are people who can sit in their own company without distraction, who can find meaning in the unspoken and beauty in the unmarked. There is something profoundly psychological in their resistance to self-branding. It's not that they dislike tattoos, it's that they see what they symbolize, the human urge to define oneself before one has truly understood oneself. And so they wait, they live, they watch themselves evolve without freezing their identity in ink. The world may call it minimalism, stoicism, or even indifference, but it is none of those. It is awareness, an understanding that identity is fluid and that truth cannot be pinned to the skin without losing its essence. Their restraint is not fear of expression, but reverence for depth. They know that the deepest parts of the human spirit cannot be illustrated, only felt, only lived. And so, while others tell their stories through symbols, these quiet souls become the story itself. Every glance, every silence, every act of restraint becomes a statement, subtle, invisible, yet impossible to ignore. They remind us that mystery is not a lack of identity, but the presence of something too vast to capture. They are the ones who teach, without ever teaching, that sometimes the truest mark of self-expression is the choice not to leave one at all. If this reflection resonated with you, if it stirred something deep inside, subscribe and continue with us on this journey into the hidden layers of human nature, solitude, and quiet strength. Here we honor the unseen, the unspoken, and the profoundly real.